remember. Thank you.
Next, just a quick little overview. Oh, also, hi everyone. My name is Paloma Campillo. I'm from the Illinois Environmental Council and I'm coordinating Lobby Day. So you probably gotten an email from me at some point. You probably got a calendar invite from me for this event. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'll throw my email in later. But yeah, a quick overview of what we're going to be going through today. We're first going to start off with why we're having this virtual Lobby Day. This is a virtual environmental justice Lobby Day. So all our bills focus on both equity and the environment. We'll also talk a little bit about what to expect from the event and from your meetings. We'll do a quick run through of the bills we're going to be pushing for, which are not just limited to CEJA this year. Then we'll also do an overview of the lobby meetings and what those are going to look like, an overview of our virtual rally, which will be happening on noon on Lobby Day on the 26th. Then we'll move into Week of Action, which will happen starting on the 26th and moving on for the rest of the week. And we'll provide other ways for you to get involved in helping us push these pieces of legislation aside from just lobbying. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. But as I believe Kelly already mentioned, if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll still get to those as well.
Sorry, and then my dog decided to bark. Perfect. My dog's not as cute as Connie's, he's a lot bigger. So why are we doing virtual lobby day? Well, talking face-to-face with your elected officials and sharing a reason why you feel connected to the legislation that we're talking about is really, really important. And it'll help the legislators understand why they need to take action on a bill. It's in fact one of the most effective ways to get legislators to remember legislation and also to get legislators to understand the importance of legislation. There are so many, every law in Illinois passes over the desks of these people, right? So what is going to make this stand out from something else? It's going to be something that you feel connected to within the legislation, whether it is that conversation about environmental justice or whether it is the passion that you feel about clean air, clean energy. If you have a lung health issue that you feel compelled to talk about clean air, that's so important to you. If you have somebody that you feel is impacted by pollution or clean energy or any of the components of any of the legislation that we're talking about, the more information that you have to present from your person, from your humanness, the more impact it'll make on the legislator. There's people like Paloma and Colleen and me and Caroline that go into these rooms and we can data dump on all of these legislators and tell them why these bills are great. But what I've always been told legislators remember is that personal connection. So-and-so said that they were impacted in this way. Their brother sells solar and he's very worried about his future. Their child has asthma. They're very worried about clean air. That's something that sticks with a legislator that makes them understand what exactly the bill means when it passes and is implemented in the state, or what the potential is for what it could mean. It also shows that we have a collective power in Springfield and that we're ready to come and talk about something that's passionate to us. There's so many people, there's over 100 people on this training today. And if you think about the issues that are really valuable, that take up space in the world, this is something that's hugely important. And to have this many people that are passionate, there's a reason that brought you here, and there's a reason that you want to be trained to do this effectively. And remember that reason when you go in to that space with those legislators. I'm pretty sure this comes up on a later slide, but these people work for you. If you're their if they're your elected official, you got them where they are. And so they need to hear what they need to hear from your perspective. And also, matter of fact, environmental justice just can't wait. I'm sure that you're aware of all of the stuff that's happening in and around the Chicago area about environmental justice, but really all over the state, there's a lot of issues where we really want to focus on transitioning in a just way to a clean energy economy. And this is a really great opportunity for us to get in there and hammer that home and make sure that when we all stay safe, then we all stay safe. And we need to go and speak up and make sure legislators understand how critically important that is. I'm gonna skip to the next slide. Okay. I can't see the notes, so I'm not sure who's next.
This is me.
Okay, thanks, Caroline.
So this next slide, here's what to expect on Environmental Lobby Day. You will hopefully have 2 virtual lobby visits, one with your state senator and one with your state representative. These will be on Google Hangout or Zoom. Everyone is assigned to a lobby guide who will be in touch with you about what time those appointments are. They also might plan a pre-meeting with you and the rest of your team. Each guide is different. They might have you prepare via email with each other and just figure it out on the spot. They might have you join early. They might have a pre-meeting. I see a question in the chat about scheduling and not hearing from your lobby guide. If you haven't heard from your lobby guide, people should email you, Paloma, right? Do you mind putting your email in the chat? Great. So if you haven't heard from your lobby guide, let Paloma know. That they're the ones who are going to be letting you know when your appointment is. There's going to be a virtual rally at noon on Monday, and that is going to be from noon to 12:30. So it's 30 minutes. Please join if you can. It's a great time to hear from speakers across the state who are working on and impacted by the bills that we're advocating for. There will also be a DJ. There was a DJ last time and it was really fun. And then we're encouraging you, if you can, to make a sign to hold it up at the rally. We can't be together in person, and just finding ways to really show excitement via the screen is really powerful. And then the final thing is there is going to be a week of action. So join us on Monday, have your lobby visits, join the rally, but then each of the other days, there's going to be a web page we'll send you out with different actions you can take each day to advocate for our bills. So it might be calling the governor about a specific bill. It might be doing something on social media. It's small actions you can take from home, but that together will add up to a lot. I also wanted to pause because I know we talked about how this is Environmental Justice Lobby Day. We have more information about each of our bills in the following slides, but I realized we should pause and just define environmental justice. I know a lot of you all know a lot about this, work a lot on it. But for anyone who doesn't know, environmental justice is the unfortunate reality that communities of color and poor communities are disproportionately impacted by pollution. So a lot of the bills we are working on are doing, as Kelly said, working to have a livable environment for everyone. And a lot of that has to do with making sure that people who are the most impacted by pollution, who are also frequently the most impacted by racism or economic inequality, have the opportunity to breathe clean air, drink clean water, and also are able to have a foothold in the clean energy economy. So we can go on to the next slide.
So the first of our bills that we'll be pushing for is one that you've probably already heard of before. It is the Clean Energy Jobs Act. So to kind of get us started here, we're going to be watching a short video about how that all came together.
How do we create better climate solutions? Listening, growing, building the power of people. It's a blueprint for better. It's a blueprint for clean energy for all.
Personally, I have asthma from living in an environmental justice community. It's the norm living on the south side of Chicago. I'm tired of fighting for the same rights and privileges that a lot of affluent neighborhoods enjoy without a second thought. The bill started with the people. We started as a coalition of hundreds of organizations that are connected to communities all across Illinois.
We held over 100 community-based listening sessions in every Senate district in the state.
We turned these community visions into the Clean Energy Jobs Act.
CEJA, the Clean Energy Jobs Act, has 4 pillars. We want to reach 100% renewable energy by 2050, eliminate carbon in the power sector by 2030, electrify the transportation sector, and hold utility companies accountable, all with a full commitment to equitable economic recovery in Black, Brown, and coal communities who need it most.
Over 700 people came to Lobby Day to fight for their health and economic well-being.
People deserve to live and work in a stable environment. That's why I support CEJA, the Clean Energy Jobs Act.
I'm excited about CEJA because we have an opportunity to pass a very comprehensive, robust piece of legislation that could really make a difference in so many critical areas.
Creating legislation from the ground up has been the secret to our success with the Clean Energy Jobs Act.
CEJA not only puts Illinois in a position of being a leader to leading the rest of the nation towards 100% clean energy, but it's demonstrating that it's possible and that it's needed and it's vital.
Solutions devised by and for communities have the power to transform our future. That's the Clean Energy Jobs Act. That's clean energy for all.
So that was our CEJA video. Gonna pause here quickly and see if any folks want to share any reactions to that, any pieces about the Clean Energy Jobs Act that particularly gets you excited about the bill? Or, oh, I'm already seeing a comment roll in. Actually, do we have a link to that one?
Yeah, I can get the link and put it in the chat.
Caroline will throw the link into that right there.
I just practically got it when I clicked on the thing, so I'm sure one of us has it. Hang on.
Yep, awesome. If not, we can also move on to the next slide and just talk more CEJA real quick. Ooh, Workers' Bill of Rights to help with transitions. Awesome, thanks Connie for sharing that in the chat. And Caroline, do you want to take this one?
I think this one's me, actually.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Joy, I see your question about repeating the 4 sections. I definitely think that you will get the information that you need when we give you the link to this page that I'm about to tell everybody about as well. So there is a lot of stuff in CEJA. It's a gigantic bill. There is a ton of information about an equitable workforce. As you see on all the icons, energy access and solar for all, renewable energy, efficiency information is in the legislation, capacity market reform, carbon-free power. My colleague, Respiratory Health Association, along with the rest of the team, has been working hard on electric transportation and electric vehicle infrastructure, and then supporting fossil fuel workers in communities, and also being accountable, utilities being accountable to their consumers and also to the general public. And I think these go there. This is the website for CEJA, the website for the Clean Energy Jobs Act is so beautiful, and we'll drop the link in there as well. It's, as it mentions on this slide, there's a lot more about each of these different components on our homepage for the Clean Energy Jobs Act. And Caroline just put the link in there. So if you want to dig through the information that's on the website, there's plenty of stuff. Here's what I think is really kind of critical when you come at a bill this big and you attend a lobby day where you're supposed to talk about it. You could do what I do and just sort of vomit out all the pieces and just hope something sticks. But what I would recommend doing is going to that website, find some component of that bill that you really connect with, get some more information about it, and really think about how that impacts you. Like up here, I have a friend in Highland Park who is so jazzed up about solar and electric vehicles that he will always come to the table with information on that. And his favorite new thing is his heat pumps. So if you find information in there that supports your worldview and things that you really feel are important in Illinois, that's something that you can dial in and be more accurate to present to the legislators, because I guarantee you they all have this website. I guarantee you they've seen it about 7,000 times. So take the parts of that that are important to you and give that information to them about how you're connected to it, right? I think I'm going to skip to the next slide. And again, I don't have my notes, so I'm not sure who's next, but I'm going to throw it to my next presenter. Oh, this is Paloma, I think, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right, so as we mentioned, CEJA is not going to be the only bill that we're going to be pushing for this lobby day. The first other environmental justice bill we're also going to be advocating for is lead service line replacement. So in case you didn't know, Illinois currently has a really bad lead problem. About 1/8 of all lead service lines in the United States are currently located in Illinois. That means that over 350,000 kids in Illinois are living at risk of lead poisoning, and 65% of Black and Latinx Illinoisans are living in communities with 94% of the known lead service lines. That makes this not just an issue of the environment, but a serious equity issue as well. We all know that lead is not at all good for you. It's linked to many health issues, including long-term cardiovascular disease, long-term reproductive problems, stunted growth, learning disabilities, long-term kidney issues, low IQ, the list goes on. Lead service line replacement, this bill that we're advocating for, however, offers Illinois with an opportunity to rectify the situation. It would require the state to replace all lead service lines. We know of over 700,000 that are currently in Illinois. It would also create over 200,000 new jobs, as well as $20 billion in new economic activity. I'll also, Colleen, if you want to add anything to either of the next two slides, please feel free to interject here. All right, then we can move on to EJ permitting. So our next bill that we'll also be going to be pushing for is environmental justice permitting. So this bill is important because currently the state of Illinois has permitting and zoning laws that allow for a lot of environmental racism. One example of that would be the General Iron issue that's currently underway in the city of Chicago's southeast side. So that's an issue in which a large scrap metal recycler with a track record of environmental violations from the United States EPA, as well as the city of Chicago, that was formerly located in Chicago's affluent and predominantly white Lincoln Park neighborhood, is currently in the process of relocating to an environmentally burdened environmental justice area, the city's southeast side, which is also predominantly Black and Latinx. Although it's like had such a terrible track record, although it's been known to spew toxic fluff and been over the neighborhood surrounding it, and it's prone to fires and explosions, it's still 2/3 of the way to receiving the permit it would need to fully relocate. And this, although it's definitely something that like we see clear environmental and equity issues with, is a process that's perfectly legal with the state's current zoning laws. And that's where environmental justice permitting comes in. So this bill would transform Illinois' permitting process based on 6 principles created by the Chicago Environmental Justice Network. I've listed all these here, and just to save some time, I'm not going to read through all of these right now, but folks should have already gotten these slides in the chat, and we'll also be sending them out with the email afterwards. But basically, this bill would create a lot of new protections for communities so that they can advocate for themselves. It would create new avenues for communities to advocate for themselves in the courtroom, in grievance processes. It would make it so that situations like General Iron, wherein a facility already has environmental violations, would have to be denied by IEPA. And it would just overall make our permitting process much more equitable and much more geared towards community sovereignty rather than the industry-friendly procedures that we currently have.
Thanks, Paloma. I'm this next slide, but I'm just gonna like jump and add in a few more details there because I'm a nerd and I learned this on Friday. So I knew that like right now with the General Iron situation, the Illinois EPA was like, I'm sorry, we have to grant the permit, which a lot of environmental lawyers were like, you don't have to. Legally, you have space where you can. But actually the Illinois EPA was looking at past case law where they were like, in the past, when there have been, you know, court cases about permitting, we think that like the history of how lawsuits have gone say that we don't have that authority. So even though it's up for debate based on case law or based on the written law, we are trying to pass a law to make it very clear that like if you are a bad actor or if you are coming into a neighborhood where there's already a ton of polluters, the Illinois EPA has more room to deny a permit. So it'd be really exciting if we passed it and would deal with like there's just like fight after fight in Chicago and a lot of places across the state on these things, and it would create more leverage for communities to be able to shape what comes into their community.
Can I add something really quick before you jump in?
Go for it. Yes.
One thing I think people who aren't necessarily as involved in this work might not know that I think is really relevant, that Paloma touched on a little bit as well, is that as you can see from number 4, there would be a project bank for fines and fees. And I think a lot of people who don't really do or deal with a lot of environmental justice work think that those fines and fees are enough to stop a company. But if you think of the multi-million-dollar companies and the amount of energy and effort that they put into having their properties in these places, it's like paying $1 to the swear jar. It's nothing. It really is just, it's nothing. So it feels like there should be all these things that are stopgaps to make it better, and they're simply not. So this bill would make it so that it is more sure that it won't happen in a way that it just continues to happen through a ton of different avenues where polluters keep on polluting. So sorry, I'll pop it back to you.
You're great. Can everyone
I was going to also
we're fired up. Go for it, Colleen.
And I could touch base more on the lead stuff. I saw some questions in the chat, but we'll get to that. The thing that I'm most interested in on this legislation is actually this first part. And like, what do we mean when we say cumulative impact? But when I'm looking at, if I'm IEPA and it's an asphalt plant, say, or some other industrial polluter, you're looking at the emissions coming out of that facility, that smokestack, those processes, whatever it might be, whatever those pollutants are, you're not having to pay attention to the fact that there's one across the street and there's one in down the block, and that community has this cumulative burden of these pollutants that are just really damaging. And so I think just having to take that higher level, because of course this air moves, right? You shouldn't be able to have all of these pollutants so close to each other in communities. But that's what we mean by that, which I think is another really important part of this bill. So I'll turn back over to Caroline.
No, you're great. As everyone can see, we're really fired up because like we need to fix this. And I think Paloma touched on this, and I feel like a lot of you all probably have seen this in the news, but in February, there were residents on the Southeast side who went on a 30-day hunger strike to try and stop this. And it's like, we should have better laws where people don't have to go on a hunger strike to stop this and go on a 30-day hunger strike and then still have it be up in the air. Like this General Irons question is still up in the air. The city hasn't denied it. The state hasn't denied it. So let's pass some better laws this spring. Okay, we can go to the next slide, which was actually my slide. Thank you for. So what to expect with your lobby visits? We're really hoping you can have two lobby visits, one with your state representative and one with your state senator, recognizing sometimes we don't get them. Sometimes legislators aren't doing their job and aren't meeting with their constituent. Also, we're trying to do them on Monday, the 26th. There's a chance, I mean, one of the beauties of virtual lobby day is there's more flexibility. There's a chance maybe it gets scheduled on Tuesday if that works better for the legislator. As we said, you should be hearing from your team guide. If you haven't, please do let Paloma know. I'll let Paloma, can you put your email in the chat one more time? If you don't get a meeting, it's still really important to let your legislator know that you care about these things. So if that's the case, we hope that you can gather with your team and that your lobby lead helps you do that. And write emails to your legislators sharing why you care about these three issues, because just getting messages from constituents also makes a big difference. And this is you, Kelly.
Yeah, it's like with the screen sharing, I have to remind myself how to unmute every single time. Sorry, it's so Sunday in my brain. I apologize for that, you guys. So again, I'll spring back to kind of something I mentioned a little early in the presentation too, which is you don't have to be an expert. You just heard Colleen talk. Colleen's the expert in every room that she's in, and I guarantee you she's talking to every legislator. Jen Walling's talking to every legislator. Everyone who has worked out the minutia of these bills has been face-to-face or letter to inbox with every single legislator that has at any point co-sponsored this bill. I guarantee it. So you don't need to come in and be that expert. What we need you here for, what we always need you here for as advocates, is to come in and share that personal anecdote about why you care about passing this bill, why you're concerned about it, why it impacts you. As you can tell, Paloma and Caroline and I and Colleen, we all are very passionate about environmental justice. It's something that really sticks in our craw, and the four of us have worked on it a lot to be able to say, you know, this is why I have friends that live here, I have family that lives here, you can't buy clean air, I'm very much affected by this, because if you come for this community, you're just going to come for mine next, right? So it's something that we think about when we go into that space and think about this shared journey towards climate justice, towards slowing down the impacts of climate change and protecting our state as best we can from this future that's looming ahead of us, right? So like I mentioned before, our organization focuses on people with COPD and asthma and lung health issues. Maybe, like I said before, maybe you have a relative that's in renewable energy and they're concerned and want there to be more jobs available here in Illinois. And I think that that's a real big space to stand tall and speak your truth to that legislator so that they remember what's happening. And as that second bullet point says, like I told you, they can call, they have a hotline for people that they know can deal with the technical parts of any bill. They do, I guarantee you. And if they don't, and they do ask you a question in the moment or ask you a question when you're in that lobby meeting, the most powerful and best thing you can say, even for those of us who work in this industry, you can say, you know what, that's a very good question. I'll get back to you. You don't have to have the answers to everything, because we can get you the answers that you need. And also, Be polite and respectful. I feel like it's almost a little easier in the Zoom space because there's an energy that comes with being in a physical room with a legislator that raises the stakes, that makes it a little bit more scary. But when you're in that Zoom space, you can take your deep breaths, you can turn off your camera, you can get yourself situated and centered, and then you can turn on your public speaking voice and be polite and respectful. The cool part about Zoom meetings also that's a little bit different than in-person meetings is if you need a little crib sheet or cliff notes on the other page, you can have that. So if you are worried about your performance anxiety with your story, you can have a little bit of a reference point. And as I said before, you don't need to be intimidated for this person. If you're meeting with them, that means that they work for you. You elected them, or perhaps didn't, depending upon your district. They are in a position representing you. And if they're representing you, then they need to know what you think about these bills. So that is the biggest thing that I can say when you're in that space. And luckily, also in that Zoom space, if you panic and you need help in the chat, your lobby lead that's in that space with you can quickly chat back and forth with you in that moment, and it's not a creepy side whisper in an office, it's just the Zoom chat. So that's a safe space as well if you need help. I'm going to throw it to who is next. Hang on one second.
It's Paloma's next.
Paloma. Okay, Paloma, I'm going to give you that next one, the draft meeting agenda.
Yeah, for sure. So what are these meetings actually going to look like? First off, just want to note that your team guides should be setting up a pre-meeting with you beforehand. So while we are giving you this draft agenda right now, you'll also have like a little time to meet with your lobby team and kind of have like a little dress rehearsal of what that'll go through and figure out who's saying what and what all that is going to look like. So basically, you'll start by kind of having a round of intros. Usually we have folks do like little icebreakers with like 1 to 2 sentences about why they're here for this lobby day, why environmental justice is important for them, and why they want to see these bills pass this session. Then you'll move into reviewing each bill. So once again, during your pre-meeting, you'll probably want to assign a person or two to take each one and kind of like go over what they'll be speaking on for each of those. We'll also be giving some resources your way, so you'll have some little talking points to pull from as well. Additionally, with each bill, the resources that we're giving you will tell you who's a co-sponsor for those. So if your legislator is a co-sponsor, please thank them for co-sponsoring and ask them to continue to work to pass the bill. If your legislator is not a co-sponsor, then you can ask them if they will co-sponsor. And then additionally, going back to Kelly's point earlier, if your legislator has any questions, it's completely fine if you don't know the answer to those. We'll also be sending around a report back form to all the registrants after lobby day. So if you want to make a note of any questions that were outstanding from your meeting there, someone from our staff will follow up and make sure that they have an answer to that question. Then another awesome part here is you can ask your legislator and participants to take a screenshot. As I think Caroline mentioned earlier, we don't have the opportunity to be in person this time around. So it's going to be a little hard for us to make ourselves as visible with this lobby day, since we can't all have like hundreds of folks packed in the rotunda this time around. So instead, we're going to take to social media and try to make our lobby day as visible as we can there. And then last thing is just along the same veins of being respectful to your legislators, thank them for their time. Like while they do work for you, they are incredibly busy at the moment. So we want to make sure we're still being appreciative and showing that we are appreciative of them taking the time to meet with us.
This is you, Kelly.
Awesome. One thing to sort of jump on the end of what Paloma just said as well is that even, and I saw this happening in the chat back and forth with Colleen and I think Ryan, is also that even if you're in that space, a legislator who may already be a co-sponsor may have had something come up in a meeting that they couldn't address that they need more backup on. And so sometimes that's why a meeting is helpful, even if someone is a great supporter of this bill or has been since the beginning, because sometimes things come up where they want to know a little bit more about the execution. And again, if that comes up and you don't know, that can always be shuffled to somebody and say you'll follow up and get back to them and get them the information that they need. So this one, this is some information about the rally. The rally is going to be on April 26th. It is on that Monday. It will be from noon to 12:30. I don't know if any of you were on the lobby day that was back late last year in November, but it was, I'll admit, I had some brain question marks about the online rally situation, but it was really a great time and it was a really fun and there was so much energy. It was amazing, actually. There'll be speakers, there's a DJ, we'll have time to sort of be together in that space and group up. It is via Zoom. Like it says, you need to register separately and keep your eyes open for a Zoom link. And we have people making their own signs and holding them up on their screens and everything like that. It's a real fun time, and it's a half hour of your life. It's over. Hopefully, if you do work during the day, or even if you don't, you can sit and eat your lunch and be at the rally and just be a part of like the group spirit and get yourself keyed up for the rest of the week for this continual sort of fight for these bills. So that's going to be what the lobby day is. If you have questions also about anything specific, I think Paloma, as it gets closer, are you going to release to the people that register a list of the people that are speaking, or is that going to come up as the event gets a little bit closer? Is that TBD?
That is still TBD. I'm not sure if the rally team has actually finalized that one yet, but yeah, that info is coming, and so is the link to register. So keep an eye out for those.
And the speakers are always amazing. They're always so motivational, and they're just really inspired and keyed up. And I love watching the rally. It's always a good time. Okay, and I'm going to throw it to who's next to talk about the week of action. Oh, look, Colleen, there you are, and Jen. Okay.
Yes, I think this is me. I also just had further thoughts on like if your legislator is already a co-sponsor, which I know can like sometimes be like demotivating. But one, and I know there's plenty of dialogue going on in the chat, so sorry if I'm missing stuff. But one is like it's actually like their job the most to get CEJA across the finish line if they're on board. And so telling them like, hey, this is really important. We need to pass this year. But the other thing is like, this work is tiring, and actually like hearing from your constituents that they're excited about this is really going to pump them up. Like I'm even thinking about for myself, I'm not a legislator, but I've been working for 2 years to try and pass CEJA. Kind of tired, but it's really motivating for me to be on a call with 100 other people who are like ready to talk to their legislators. So in the same way, a legislator who's been trying to pass CEJA for 2 years is going to be pumped up by meeting with their constituents who are like, we're ready for you to pass this. Go do it. We want it. So additional commentary there. In addition to Lobby Day and the rally, there's a week of action. We're going to be releasing more information about this soon, but we will send you a webpage with small actions you can take every day. Another thing I'd flag is going back to the rally. A thing that makes a huge difference is if you are on Twitter, or if you want to learn Twitter before Lobby Day, being able to live tweet and use the hashtags. I believe the hashtags will be CEJA Can't Wait and IL4EJ. That is a really good way for us to show visibility. Again, because we can't gather in the rotunda, we've been able to trend #1 in the state and in Chicago, and just being able to show that really makes an impact. So if you want to go beyond just showing up to the Zoom and making a sign and meeting with your legislators, tweeting during the rally, including things you're hearing, talking about what you're seeing, why you're pumped up, makes a huge difference. I think we can go to the next slide. Oh, oopsies. I just stole whoever's slide this was. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself.
Good. All good. Yeah, no, just, I guess, going to emphasize some of Caroline's points just there. We definitely want to make sure that we can get as much noise on social media as possible on that day. So the hashtags, once again, are EJ for IL, CEJA Can't Wait, and TWIL, which, if you're not familiar, stands for Twitter Illinois and is used in a lot of like politics circles on Twitter. You'll also want to tag your legislators so they can know that environmental justice is a priority for so many of you, and hopefully it could be for them as well. Don't forget to tag the governor as well. And I think Caroline already mentioned this, but include visuals. They're great. Put in a screenshot of like your meeting, put in the sign that you made for the rally, put in a screenshot of the rally if you want. Like throw those in, and we're going to try to get this trending as much as we can.
Also, if you're a rookie tweeter, and you just go land on there and you look up those hashtags, you can sit and retweet or quote other people's tweets if that's your level of capacity. That's not my best social media platform. So oftentimes I just go on Twitter and I'm like, oh, look, Caroline posted, I'm gonna retweet this. Yeah, I'm gonna like it. So anything you do that amplifies that stuff, chucks it into the algorithm. Some has weight more than others, but it chucks it into the algorithm and builds that momentum up so that it gets to the forefront of where we would want it to be. Say, like what Caroline said, is that like we were #1 in Illinois, we were #1 in the Chicago area. So even if you feel like you can't do original tweets, you can always go and support the people that are tweeting, and that's valuable as well. What What's next? Questions? We're at the end. We've got questions. There's a ton in the chat. So I'm going to scroll back up through the chat and I'm going to stop. Can I stop screen sharing?
Yeah.
And then, okay. And my computer is like being crazy and fussy. Okay. So if you feel like your question is way up in the chat and you want to check it again at the bottom, that's also really great. But I'm also going to scroll up and see if there's anything that hasn't been answered yet. See if there's anyone that also wants to weigh in and ask a question now. Caroline, we can open it up for questions, right? Is that okay for people to physically ask?
Yeah, what I would vote for is that we scroll through the questions in the chat first. And then
just in case
after that,
we
open it up for questions, if that's okay. And if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, but maybe just like run from the beginning. Like I'm seeing Beth's question about, do you mind if I just dive in?
I was just going to touch base on that.
Go for it,
that'd
Colleen.
be helpful, Kelly or Caroline.
Yeah, that would be great.
Beth had asked about the talk of the other energy bill from the union group. So something you'll hear some legislators say is, well, there's a lot of energy bills. I'm just waiting to figure out where they're all going, right? There's a bill that many folks have heard of for the last couple of years, which is the Path to 100, which is a legislation from the solar industry that is just focused on that, right? It doesn't have all of the workforce components that are really important to CEJA. It doesn't have the transportation provisions. So we often say that like that's important. That's a huge part of CEJA as well. It's just maybe a sliver of all of what we're focused on. The Climate Union Jobs Act is maybe equally as comprehensive as CEJA, but we still believe that CEJA was developed after hundreds of listening sessions throughout the state of Illinois. We know that the vast majority of the citizens of Illinois have big support for CEJA. Our last poll showed 74% want CEJA passed immediately and over 80% support the bill. So I think emphasizing just that this is not, that this bill was really written by the people of Illinois, people like you, people throughout all of these districts, and that we're really just, again, focused on making sure that as we expand opportunities, we're expanding opportunities for people who have been historically shut out of these spaces, and really being meaningful and intentional about providing job opportunities and wealth building opportunities for Black and Brown individuals and communities. So those are the ways in which I think CEJA stands above else. And another talking point, there was kind of a question about just rebuttals, is we don't want an energy bill written by utilities. The governor doesn't want an energy bill written by utilities, and I don't think the legislature does either. So some of the other energy bills, Ameren and others are there to, continue to provide stakeholders with shareholders with profits and not ratepayers. So hopefully that helped answer that. And I don't know if anyone else wants to add in on how you handle that question between Caroline, Kelly, Paloma. Pass it back.
I feel like that was very comprehensive. I don't have too much to add to that.
I would like to add something. This is Nicole Salisbury, Sierra Club. Also, not only just Black and Brown communities, but also other subgroups. For example, returning residents, those who are incarcerated, as well as those who are in the foster care alumni association, as well as the transgender community. I know that those populations get kind of, overlooked, for lack of a better way, when we're explaining these things. We talk about Black and Brown communities, but also within those communities as well, there are, subsets that are focused on as well.
Thanks, Nicole. I was going through the chat, and I think the next question that we didn't get to is from Michael Chouette, who says the video mentions the power sector and transportation, but what about commercial industry or residential energy use and efficiency? So I'll punt that over to Colleen. I think that was about CEJA.
I will say CEJA is the most ambitious climate legislation Illinois has ever seen, right? We wouldn't be fighting this hard for it if it wasn't. It is not economy-wide to the same degree that other bills may be. So we are not addressing manufacturing, things like that when we talk about commercial industrial, but there are provisions. We seek to remove, I'm trying not to get too wonky, guys, so bear with me. Right now, we're letting large facilities, large manufacturers skate by, not contributing to energy efficiency. And that actually has a huge impact on the rest of us who are paying into energy efficiency to get the benefit of it. And that was a provision that Governor Rauner put in the last energy bill. So we're trying to remove that in CEJA and make it so that large facilities, large industrial customers are required to pay into energy efficiency programs and support, that reduction, which benefits the full grid and the full state of Illinois. And then I think just on other residential, the energy efficiency provisions and the gas efficiency provisions are significant. Renewable energy is amazing and the future, but every kilowatt of energy we don't use is energy we don't use. And so we have to be reducing our energy burden, which has meaningful impacts for customers as well. And there's a lot more on, if you really want to read through all the energy efficiency provisions, but that hopefully I think answers that question.
I'm also just going to very quickly see, I mentioned a question that I think someone asked, but I think you might be able to find the answer to your question about the 4 sections of CEJA when you go to the Clean Energy Jobs website, which Caroline put in there again. And we can put a bunch of these, when you get the slide deck, those links that you can click on the slide deck are also live. So if you have questions, you can click through the slide deck to get to the website where there is more information as well. And then there was also a question, there's been a lot of questions in the chat about recruiting people, always, to literally the moment it starts, right, Paloma? Like recruit people and show up at lobby day. Do you have a cutoff for when you don't want to, want people to join, or what's your thought on that?
We close our sheet the day before lobby day. So that will be April 25th, it'll be closed, but you can still register that day. You just need to email me and then I would get you all set up. So pretty much, as Kelly said, up until the last day, there is a way to register.
And also, somebody asked whether the bills were in the House or the Senate. Specifically about CEJA, there's a bill in the House and in the Senate. In terms of the EJ bill, I think Colleen mentioned that there are not bill numbers for that. But has it been proposed yet in both the House and the Senate, Colleen, or is it before that part of the process, or where is it?
Yeah, it hasn't yet been officially filed. So
okay.
we might do that this week because I know it's easier to point to a bill number for folks. So stay tuned. And then the lead bill is in both chambers. So there's both a House and a Senate. And, there's not as many co-sponsors on that legislation. So that's a great ask for your legislators.
There was also a question about Vistra employees and how they plan to transition when the coal plant shuts down versus CEJA. That's a really good question for the legislator in your district too, if they have an idea of how that's supposed to happen. And I don't know too much about that. That seems a little deep for me. Colleen, do you know anything about like comparing how that kind of stuff is going to happen?
So, and agreed, great question. I think, Caroline and Paloma and Kelly did a great job of emphasizing earlier something that we say, which is just like, these should be a dialogue, right? This is about building a relationship. And the more trusted of a voice you are to your legislator, the more we're moving them along. There are some amazing stories of the work that organizing has done to make people be the stronger and stronger environmental champions. So the point that Kelly referenced about asking them what they think that vision should look like is a good note. Specifically on the Vistra bill versus the CEJA bill, we do believe that power plant sites, as they are going away over the next many more years, could be sites for battery storage, solar, et cetera. And we provide within our empowerment zones opportunities for those sites to be in line, essentially, to have renewable energy, to have battery storage. What we're not doing is saying, hey, you community who's had this power plant should now subsidize the owner of that power plant to convert to renewable energy or battery storage. And that is what Vistra's asking. Vistra's asking for a handout and saying, well, we're bringing clean energy to this community that we've been polluting for decades. So we believe in making sure that those spaces, could be solar, could be battery storage, et cetera, as based in what the community wants, but it shouldn't be something that communities pay for. It should be something that Vistra pays for. And then with transition broadly, our bill goes much farther in protecting workers and protecting communities. But that, I think, helps.
That kind of reminds me also what somebody mentioned about rebuttals in the chat too, in terms of questions about rebuttals, is that it is a conversation. And if someone has a rebuttal or is pushing back and that falls in the category of things you don't know, just say, that's a good question. And I can get an answer to you. And we'll have your email or your staffer's email, we'll get back to you. And if they try to sort of engage you in a way that feels above your pay grade, then, write it down and ask one of the team that's leading this and let them know that this person has a very specific question about their district and that it's important that they get back to them. Some legislators like to trip you up like that. Some legislators have a big power trip. Some don't. It really depends on who your legislator is. And in fact, I think Ryan asked this question too about making sure that legislators get appropriate visits if they aren't necessarily sponsors, versus we still want to make sure that people are meeting with their own constituents, because I can walk into everybody's office and talk about this bill and they're not going to care nearly as much as if they would if I was voting for them. So we're not trying to load, correct me if I'm wrong, Paloma, but we're not loading these meetings with a ton of people that are out of district. We want to make sure that people are speaking to their constituents, because that's the point of this, to know what your constituents think about this and how they want you to work with these bills, right? Am I right about that? That's right. Everybody's in district for what they're meeting their district people.
Yes, that's correct. Everybody's going to be put into a group based on their Senate district. So whichever senator you're in, that's the group you'll be in, and those are the legislators you'll be visiting.
And a couple of things. One, just want to acknowledge how many questions there are about all the different energy bills. Want to reemphasize, you don't need to be an expert. I probably can't describe all of the energy bills, and I work doing this full time. So it's totally fine to just say, I can't speak to those bills. I'm here because I support CEJA. Here's why. And having you support CEJA makes a big difference in terms of clean energy, in terms of climate justice and environmental justice, and building an economy that works for all of us, having lower consumer rates, et cetera. So if you're excited about that, it would mean a lot to me to have you sign on to CEJA. And right now, I'm not super worried about, those other bills. I'm here to talk to you about CEJA. Also, just question, we had a question about lead line numbers from various communities, which Colleen, I saw you answered in the chat that we do indeed have those numbers, and Rockford is one of the top 5 communities. Is there a place where people can go and find that information?
You know what? We may have it by district. I can try and figure out how to get that to folks in advance. That may be difficult, but I would just say the point to make is that lead service lines are in every part of this state, and certainly within every district. There are certainly communities that don't have lead service lines or don't have as many, but we know this is a rural, an urban, a downstate, a Chicago issue. It does span in every community. And beyond that, the social cost of lead service line poisoning is significant. It's estimated at $3.7 billion in economic costs a year for child lead poisoning in our state, whether that's educational, healthcare, or criminal justice system. So we're all paying a price already, is another rebuttal point. I guess we get a lot, but yeah, if legislators have questions about where their lead service lines are, that's a great thing to note in the report back form, so that we can get that information to them.
Let me see a question. Does anyone know how Vistra treats their employees when they close plants and how the treatment would be different if CEJA passes?
I think we already
Oh, we answered
addressed
that? I'm
that
sorry.
one. Yeah. I did see one. We're all just going through the questions in the chat right now, but I saw one about fact sheets. We do currently have 2 of the fact sheets done, so I will definitely send those out to everyone. So right now we have CEJA and lead service line replacement, but EJ permitting is still in the works. So expect all of those in your inbox soon, as well as some elevator pitches for the bills. So those are going to be the resources you guys will have to help you prepare.
I don't mean to be another voice looking at the questions and trying to answer, but Chip asked a question about IEPA, and just like, I mean, why are they bad? Why are they not doing more to really protect communities? I ask myself that all the time. But I think Caroline hit on this really well, in that they'll often look at the letter of the law and say, this permit applicant did everything they needed to, and because of that, we have a duty to grant them that permit. And so what we're trying to do is A, make those requirements stricter, bring in community engagement more, and make it more difficult, because right now it is rubber stamping. But it is, the agency will say it is difficult for them to turn down permits. And so, Caroline raised, we're trying to make it unequivocally clear that they have the option to turn down permits when they need to. I'll pass it back over.
Also, I feel like anecdotally, and Colleen, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but one thing I've noticed, even on the local level, when we try to pass statutes and laws and things like that, is a huge pushback is enforceability, like who's going to be the one, and capacity, and this and that and the other. And I think really underlining what Colleen just said, if you make the rules what they are, then the consequences of not following those rules are greater than if the rules don't exist, right? Even if the complaint is we don't have enough people to look and see if this and that and the other thing is happening. And the thing, we always try to pass anti-idling laws up here on the North Shore, and it's always like, well, the police aren't going to go and enforce that and this and that and the other. So if you make the consequences stricter, then at least you're on the way to potentially getting more compliance through that route. And then as we work on implementation with these bills, then you can start to think about how things are, and like I said, Colleen, correct me if I'm wrong, but how things are staffed and how to best support that, and how to get more money to the EPA so they have more people to do the things and look at the information and stuff like that. But this is an important first step to get to all that stuff. So all that to say, like we've said a few times, just don't get caught in the weeds with this as much as you feel connected to the heart of these issues and want to have that communication with your legislator, because it's something that really is unfair and it's critical to communicate to people. So for what it's worth.
I saw a question in the chat about how to recruit friends on Facebook. So I'm just going to put in the chat a toolkit that includes some Lobby Day recruitment information, where there's like a sample email you could send to your friends, a sample Facebook post. It's a Sierra Club toolkit, so apologies if you're from another group and you're like, why is this so Sierra Club branded? Feel free to like insert your own organization name, etc. And then it has lots of other tactics you can do in support of CEJA. So I wanted to share that. And one thing I do sometimes when I post on Facebook and want friends to take action, I think about the friends who I think might take action, and I like post it and then I tag them in the comments. So that's one trick.
Awesome. It is also 6:01, so just want to be respectful of folks' times. I know there are some questions we did not get to, but feel free to send those over to me and I can get them to the right person to answer those. But yeah, thanks everyone once again for hopping on, and I hope everybody has a restful rest of their weekend. Bye everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks guys, bye.